Hello coders, what's up? So this is day one of JavaScript playlist video, and in my last video we have already talked about the entire reason why you should learn coding and what is coding and what is programming, because my idea is to even teach those guys who don't even know anything about coding, who don't know anything about anything related to any programming languages, right? So at the same time, I'm also doing it for the guys who are already knowing the programming languages like C++, C, and I know that people are aware of this. If you go to any, if you have studied in 11th or 12th, or you are an engineering student of any branch you are from, okay, you know about this algorithms things which I am going to teach you in this video. And this video, those guys who already know about C and C++, any other background of any other programming language, definitely they can skip this part and directly they can start with the proper JavaScript level. But I would recommend you kindly go through this video also, because this is the base of any programming languages, irrespective of whatever you do. The idea remains same, right? For example, like if you, whether you talk Hindi, English, Kannada, Malayalam, Telugu, whatever, right? So you are trying to convey the same thing. So the syntax or the idea will be different, the way of expressing it will be different, but the whole thing remains same, right? Similarly, here in computer language, computer is going to understand the same thing, okay, regarding which we will go in deep later on, right? I'm not going to do the hardware part, like how entire code gets executed, right? Because our idea is to teach you, make you ready for things that you can at least be ready for a job, or you can crack interviews, or you can even uh, do your projects, and slowly you will definitely understand, right? But definitely be sure that I'll teach you everything, even the hardware part, even the software section, okay? So as of now we are into software part, and let us proceed with the day one of JavaScript playlist. And the very first thing is, as you see the my notes, the thing is like, what is algorithm? See, when you try to construct a house, right? When you want to have your dream house, you definitely have a plan, right? Okay, we'll have 8-story building or like 2-story building, and you will plan, right? You will get an architect who will design the entire thing, right? You will have the entire steps and procedures and the rules that you will follow in order to get the house being done. Similarly, here in computers, you have to follow certain rules, certain steps in order to let computer do your respective objective that you want computer to do. Like imagine if you want computer to add two numbers, you have to follow certain steps in order to write your language, programming language, which the computer will understand it, and it will do the operation that you want it to do. So that is known as algorithm. I hope this should be clear. Okay. Next thing is flowchart. See, the architect that we did for home, right? So it makes us very easy for us to understand the whole thing, right? So that is something called as flowchart. Flowchart is nothing but graphical representation of algorithm. See, whatever we did algorithm, we wrote like step one, number one. Like if you imagine you want to prepare a tea, right? So we will definitely first on gas, and then you will put milk and heat it, and put water and tea patti, everything like that you will maintain, right? Step by step. Now graphically, when we represent the same thing, graphically in the sense presenting it in the form of some shapes like rectangular shape, symbols. Don't worry about that. I'll definitely take an example below. I have the notes for that also, and explain you very clearly difference between algorithm and flowchart. The next thing is pseudocode. See, basically what happens is, irrespective of whatever language you take, okay, I have already talked about it in my previous video that there are around, I think, 2,500 overall programming languages across the world. But we are discussing about JavaScript. So it is possible somebody else is also working on some other programming language, which you will definitely understand as we start working on projects. Okay, you will understand that everything does matter, but we are learning JavaScript because it is the most popular language, and most of the guys are going to do the development in this particular language. Okay, now in that scenario, irrespective of what language you're doing, right, the purpose is same. If you're adding two numbers in this language, also adding two numbers in other programming language also, you're doing the same thing. So what happens, we have to understand the logic remains same, way of writing will be different. So that is something called as pseudocode. So in the sense, we present the algorithm, right? in a very logical way that is understandable by anybody who is writing it, irrespective of whatever the programming language they have chose in their initial journey. Okay. And one more thing I would like to repeat, that this video is really help you guys, even if you have not started with any programming language like C, you can directly start with the JavaScript. I will definitely implement the same thing whatever is done in other programming language over here, and later on you can also change it, so you don't have to start any other programming language instead. Okay, with this idea, next, compiler, very important thing. Okay, definitely I'll not go to the hardware part and entire thing, but it's the same thing. Imagine like, you know Kannada, okay, and I know Hindi. So now we don't know what we both are speaking. So either what can happen, that I get you a guy uh, who will convert my Hindi to Kannada, one guy, or else it is possible that I'll get a guy who will translate Kannada into Hindi for me, right? So similarly here, the computer will not understand whatever we are writing this JavaScript, right? Somebody has to convert into machine level code. Because see, ideally, whatever you write, it gets converted into ones and zero format, which computer will understand, something called as bits and bytes. Okay, so if you want to do that, we definitely have to write this programming language into some setup, which I will talk about that later half, which will convert into machine level code so that computer can do its operation. Okay, because ideally if you see one and zeros, nothing but LED light which are there, which will light up, okay, on off, on and off, like that. Whatever we write, it gets converted into that format, and wherein the light gets on and off, and that's how it will do its operation. Okay, so the compiler is a special program, as you can see, that translate programming language like, for example, JavaScript source code into machine code, which I told zeros and ones. Byte code I already told bits and byte. You will understand this. I'll definitely explain about conversion from decimal to binary, binary to decimal, another base system which we have. But I'll keep it side, okay, just for an all purpose. It will not mix in this entire playlist. Okay. Now, we will, as I promised, we'll take a very simple example to understand algorithm and flowchart before starting our entire series on this JavaScript purely. Okay. Now, if you see, we have taken very simple example of sum of two numbers. Left hand side, you can see that I have, just a second, I'll take a draw sketch, and if you see this, I'm talking about, okay, algorithm section. If you see this algorithm, right? So in my right side, you have something called as flowchart. Okay. Now, if you see, if I have to add two number, what are the things you're going to do? Definitely, you have to start. In the sense, you can take it as an example like, you have to start a computer, right? You have to turn it on, right? That just the basic sense. Here you can imagine that the setup where we will write, we need to start it. Okay, we need to set it up. Next, we have to, after the setup is done, like something, entire thing is ready. Now we have to tell, okay, what are the numbers we need to add, right? You add two numbers just by saying that doesn't make sense, right? We have to tell the computer, okay, add 2 plus 3. You can't say add add two number. That is not possible, right? You have to definitely tell it. Similarly, here you have to tell, okay, we have to take the input as a should be what, like imagine that a can take any number like 2, 3, 4, right? Similarly, there will be another number. We know already about operator and operand. If you don't know those things, when we discuss about in a proper series on base, we'll discuss what is like this plus symbol are called as, and what is operand, what is operator, right? Those things not required, but just understand. So if you see step by step, we are following. Step number 3, we'll take B. Step number 4, we'll do the operation. It's like we are doing the process. We know that we have to add 2 plus 3. So what is the formula, right? 2 plus 3. This is how sum will do. Or when we consider the case of paper, this is how we do, right? Now next, after once that thing is done, when you recall the example which I gave in my introduction, calculator, it will display sum, right? Like 2 plus 3 is equal to what? It should come 5. So this is like output, and there was an input. So if you see input, okay, input, then operation, okay, and then what will come? output, right? See, so this center thing is operation section process, right? And then finally what we do, we close the whole process to done, right? So you can imagine that like you have a website and you just click there and just search a dictionary words. You tell what word you want to search, and then once your work is done, you will close the website. Similar, that is the thing like start and stop. Same thing now. You don't want to read the entire statement. You can just make use of flowchart that makes look very systematic. If you see, ideally for every part we have to use certain symbols. For example, for start and stop, we generally use oval shape. You can see the start and the stop has an oval shape. For input section, we have to use parallelogram, as you can see, right? And for something called as operation, which we talked about, so it has to be represented in square or rectangle. You can see this. See again, output is represented in parallelogram. So what it is representing the same thing, start, oval shape, and these arrows are representing the direction. So basically what happens, you cannot get the output directly. You have to follow systematic way. First, we will open the website, right? That is like start. Then we'll enter the values, that number we want to add, like imagine 2. Then input another value, we'll give the input 3. Then it will add numbers, right? And then finally will be stored in this box. And then finally we can see that this 5 was the output that we got inside the machine. And then we can close the website and say, okay, our work is done. So this is called as flowchart. Exactly the same thing. We have to use our language to make computer do the same operation. I hope this should be very clear, and I don't want, definitely I'll create notes which will help you further, but you have to also understand that you cannot push yourself everywhere and deviate from the main agenda that we have, right? There is always a lot to learn, but I will always ask you guys to restrict to certain extent. For your knowledge purpose, definitely I'll keep updating more resources as time proceed. So next video we will start with the, hopefully we will start with the data types, and let's see. Okay, I hope you liked it, and I will be expecting to share this video, subscribe my channel. And the reason why I'm telling you, because see, if you don't have a community, it's not easy for you guys to do development. There is definitely you need help. So always I cannot help you guys there. If somebody is able to do it, you have to take the help. So it's better to learn together in a group. Okay, so it's better you have a group. Okay, with that, bye bye, thank you.